Right. What is up, Storm Chasers? We have an interview with for you guys tonight, a surprise interview that I know you guys were not expecting. Miss Mary Nunn, I want to officially welcome you to the show.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Now, let me ask you, Mary, how are you related to Natalie?
I was her stepmother for 28 years.
Wow, for 28 years. Now, in being her stepmother for 28 years, I'm pretty sure, like, she refers to you as mom, I would assume, right?
No, no.
Oh,
She
no.
calls me, no, she doesn't call me mom. I mean, she has a bio mom that she grew up with. We just had her every
Okay.
other weekend and every holiday. And you know, anytime that she wanted to come around.
Okay,
So we
gotcha.
took her
Gotcha.
on vacations. There were times when she spent summer school with us. You know, she would stay the entire summer and do summer school in our region when she was in high school, that sort of thing. But
Gotcha.
she came to like family affairs or whatever we had going on, that kind of thing. So pretty central
Okay.
part of our family.
Yeah, I know. I mean, after 28 years, I would definitely call you mom. How old was she when you came into her life?
6 years
If
old.
you, wow, oh, wow, six. Wow. Wow. Okay. So, let me ask you this. Recently Natalie has said that her dad had like a drug problem. He dealt with addiction. So, what can you tell us about her biological father, your ex-husband?
Well, I met him in 91. Um, and when I initially met him, he hid that aspect from me. That he was actually dating me from a kind of like a clean and sober house.
Oh,
And
wow.
as we were dating, he was stating to me that he had this, secret he wanted to tell me. And I was pretty concerned because I didn't really know what it was. And that's what actually came out
Okay.
many times over in the 5 year dating spectrum.
Okay.
And we had we had when he during his sober bouts we had he had discussed marriage with me, and I said, I'm going to have to like mandate you to do some type of program and put this addiction to bed if I'm going to enter into this marriage with you, because I can't be dealing with this. And not only that,
Right.
there's child support issues. Those got to be on par, because now I'm going to be entwined and accountable. So you got to get your head right. So
Now, how many years did you guys date before he brought up marriage?
5. I mean, we talked about it a lot, but it wasn't
Okay.
until the 5th year that we actually married. But that was because a lot of trial and error. I mean, I moved a few times because of the uh, the drug addiction. One time we got a little kind of it was kind of like a house townhome slash place. It was in Vallejo, California, and he got really bad, and I exited the home and went back there to get my dog because we had this Rottweiler, and I was concerned about the dog's care. And I went there with my girlfriend, and there was a gun laying on the table. He had got involved with some D boys that were like took over
Oh,
the house, and that was like the spot, where they could like slang dope and stuff. And his benefit from it was he could get drugs, right? So
right.
he got really spiraled out of control from that event, and I actually moved away, and it took some time for us to connect back together. And when we did, I just tough loved him into a rehab. He was getting high quite a bit, and he came to my home, and I told him he wasn't coming in. The only way he was coming in is if he got in the car and went to a rehab, but he wasn't coming in this address anymore. And he
Right.
went away and came
Until
back.
until he got
Came back
clean.
right. And so then he ended up coming back to my door, and I said, "You ready to go?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm tired." And I said, "Okay, we'll go get in the passenger side of the car. I'll join you." And I already got it all set up. We're gone. And so he went into
Okay.
a place called Jericho House, which is in South San Francisco. it's a working man program, so you actually have to contribute to the house, like in way of rent, and then you have to do all the programs and all the meetings and what have you. And he successfully fulfilled that program, and in essence gave me 28 years of clean and sober marriage. It was
Now,
pretty
now,
phenomenal. And
now let me ask you, what was his drug of choice?
crack.
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 Wow.
So
Wow.
it was bad. So
Yeah.
and not only that, I mean, by way of my tough loving him into sobriety, which nobody had ever successfully done with any length of time that I knew of, it also allotted for him to be present, sober, and attended in the children's lives. I mean, as a result of that, they had a focused father, right? Who
Right.
had attributes to offer. So that was pretty significant.
So where is the animosity then? Is there any reason why Natalie should have animosity towards her dad?
Towards her dad, I don't know that she has animosity towards her dad,
Okay.
because I mean, she just celebrated his 60th birthday. I mean,
Okay.
they seem to
Okay.
celebrate him, and he's done numerous things, not so much to her, but definitely to me. But they just tend to not call him out on his stuff, and they're just great enablers. So I guess it's more important for her to have a father relationship rather than have a sober father relationship.
Gotcha. And now that he has relapsed, did he go back to crack or did he go to something else?
I don't know, because I don't really have a front row seat, but I can tell you from from 2011 and from 2011 to 20, let's say 14, when I discovered he was having affairs with 20-year-old hookers that were like younger than Natalie, that he was meeting on
Wow.
Backpage.com. He actually would meet them in the form of a trick, pay for their services. And
Look, I know about Backpage.com. Yes, ma'am.
and so
I
then
know.
anyway,
Yeah.
he was getting involved with those type of ladies, and he also the business, because through our marriage he used to be a journeyman painter, and he
Okay.
would always be the first one they'd lay off, because he was one of few black men on the crew. Most of the crews were white, so when they went to lay off people, they would always lay him off. And I said, you need to not keep allowing them to subject you to that, and start studying for your contractor's license so you can be viable during these downtimes, because you're just as talented as any other contractor, right? So he
Right.
successfully studied with my sister. She would drill him. He would listen to tapes in the car, and he went and took the state contractor's licensing class. And he actually called me, and he was crying, and I've never seen him cry in my entire life, because he's kind of like a man's man. And
Yeah.
he said that he and only one other guy passed the course, and that they had told him, you sure you don't want to check your answers? And he said, I had remembered when you take a test, always go with your first choice. Don't second guess your choice. That's typically the right choice. And he got his contractor's license. And from there, I mean, we just soared. I mean, he was doing like commercial business, I mean, with Fortune 500 companies. He did
So
a
he was
project in
raking in
downtown.
the money then. He was raking in the money then after
He
a
was a
while.
complete, he was a complete success story. I mean, it was like all of
Wow.
this, as a result of me in his ear, telling him that he was more than a conqueror. He could do it. No good thing would God withhold from him. And he just literally just excelled. And he was, I mean, he rebuilt the whole downtown Pittsburgh Video Blackhawk project, which consists of, it was called a reunification project for Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh was,
Hmm.
it didn't have anything really nice, and it consisted of like 75 condo and apartment units, and it was like a top of storefronts with all the amenities, workout room, pool, what have you. And he got the contract for that, painting the interior and exteriors, like a $500,000 job. And it was he
Right.
did lots of work like that. He was getting like hunting lodges for $150,000. I mean, he built a pool in my backyard that I still live in this home that he paid cash for fifty-seven thousand
Wow.
dollars, like it was nothing. I mean, went to a
So
car lot by pay cash.
So he
Yeah.
literally changed his life around, but what would cause him to want to relapse and then subsequently end you
Okay,
guys'
I'm gonna
marriage?
tell you what I'm gonna tell you what caused him to relax, even though we got through every endeavor that ever came our way. Because I'm a prayer warrior. I'm gonna call down heaven, and I just know how to make things happen. And I'm a paper shuffler. I know all about like um, loans and loan. I know loan underwriters. I just know a lot of things. I know how to funnel papers through the courts. I know how to stop like action against your home, all that type of thing. So
Okay.
during the recession of 2008, everybody lost their value in their home, and we had just sold our previous home and bought a new home on a golf course, and we were doing well all the way up in 2008. And the recession hit, lost our value, and nobody was really doing anything. The whole world, well, this section of the world was pretty shocked by it all. So they weren't doing
Yeah.
business. They were living within their means. So people weren't contracting work. And he was
Right.
really nervous about it. And I told him, just golf. So him and Natalie's brother would just go golf. I mean, they perfected their golf. They golfed for an entire year. Well, I like fought in the background, right?
Okay.
And I just kind of like saved the day. I saved the day as far as our home, and took it out of peril because it was in dire straits because money wasn't coming in anymore.
Yeah, that was a rough
But from
year. That was a
there,
rough year for a lot of people.
it was a rough year. And then
It was.
from there, as time went on, I would say the next maybe 2010, his mother, who he's very close to, suffered a heart attack. And as a
Okay.
result of that heart attack, they had to put some stents in her heart. And she had like a epiphany where, I feel like I'm going to die soon. So if I'm going to go to the grave, I'm going to make sure my boys are good. She had 4 sons, including
Okay.
Earl. And she had a lot of stock and had worked in a pretty significant business that had done a lot of significant things, and that you may have know of, like they did the blood DNA, like in the OJ trial, things like this, right?
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
so their stock was worth quite a bit, and so she decided she was going to buy each boy a foreclosed home, and it didn't matter what state it was in because they all were gifted in the trades. They could turn a home over, like flip a home, right? And
Right.
so she bought each boy a home. And one of the sons wouldn't leave LA and take resident of the home. So Earl was overseer of the home. So he actually had control of it. So he went about fixing up both homes. And as he was doing so, he came to me and he said, Mary, I wanna give back. I wanna for all my years of sobriety, I want to give back and make them rehabs. I want to make one a female rehab and one a girl rehab, and we could have ministry there. You could teach Bible study. I'll have a Sunday service, what have you. I said, I think that's beautiful. Let's do that.
Okay.
And so he went about doing that, and he had some colorful characters that came through there, that were kind of rough and still were kind of dabbling, even though they weren't really supposed to be, because it was a clean and sober home.
Now, were
And
they
instead of
workers or were they workers or
no, they
clients?
weren't workers. They weren't workers. None of these people were workers. These were
Okay.
people that were in need of a rehab home, right?
Okay.
They had
Okay.
drug addiction or something. They weren't court ordered. They were kind of people he kind of found or by word. Even Natalie brought a guy that she met on an airplane from Michigan, who later got his teeth knocked out in the home, which I'll tell you about later. But he started filling the homes. And
Okay.
as we went along, instead of Earl having an influence on the men started actually influencing Earl. And Natalie was starting to be really popular, with doing, a lot of Bad Girls and, whatever else she did, there was a lot of other shows, Love and Something, I don't know, but
The
there were a lot of
reality
other shows.
stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that Ray guy would produce, right? And so she was getting a popularity from it, and he liked it. He liked the attention when people say you're Natalie's father. And this is my analogy as to why he fell from grace. he liked the attention so much. He almost wanted to exude behavior as such, that she got it from him, right? He liked the attention, so he kind of
Okay.
tried to. He started to act kind of cool and like attract young girls because he liked the attention. Oh, you're Natalie's father, and so that brought about some of these hookers wanting to have relationships with him more so than just turn tricks with him.
Just to
And
get close to Natalie, because he was Natalie's dad.
exactly,
Gotcha.
and just that
Gotcha.
kind of that limelight, and a lot of these women, they didn't have nothing. You know, they were hookers. They didn't have cars. They didn't have homes. They didn't have fathers, so they had daddy issues. Even though Earl was old enough to be their father, because they were younger than Natalie, and
Right.
so that's just my analogy looking back. And he didn't like the pressure of after 2008 when the market crashed. You know, it was more struggling. Money didn't come as easy, and he
Okay.
kind of thought to himself, why should I stay with in the home I share with my wife? Why don't I just take resident in my paid for home, because it was protected under a trust, the Nunn Trust, which indicated that upon Earl's death, if we were married and lived there, I'd have to exit the home, and the home would go directly to the children, Natalie and Ronald. So he took his reprieve. And
Okay.
you know, it was odd because we founded churches. We founded a church in our area, which was my Bishop Carlton Leonard, who married Natalie on Bridezilla. He opened me a Christian bookstore in my town in
Okay.
Brentwood called King of Kings. He was a deacon in the church we served. We had Natalie and Ronald going to the church. Ronald was really engaged. We did a huge Easter service. I even had Karen coming to the church, and it was really new because she didn't really know God like that. And this is a
Hmm.
charismatic Pentecostal church, so everybody was engaged and
Oh.
going,
Okay.
and I was encouraging it, and so when the whole rehab thing happened and the Natalie thing, and she was putting all these kind of risque posters that were, you know, some were really naked, what have you, and she would sign them out in the public and give them away. And he had a whole bunch, and he was giving them away, and he was getting a lot of attention from that. So that's my analogy. He
Oh.
didn't want to struggle anymore. He liked the attention, and he just, you know,
Okay.
it's kind of like a slow burn when you give yourself away. It's not overnight, and it's so gradual. I didn't notice because he kept me so busy. Because, you know, even though he had the business, I was the behind the scenes, you know, paper person. You know what I mean? Like I
You
typed
ran
all
the books.
I did everything: the addendums, the chain orders, the contracts, the
Gotcha.
union payroll deductions, you name it. And that was our business. That was our livelihood. I had just involved myself so much in it I didn't have time to have another trade because it took so much of me. And not only that, later he did work for Mark Scott Construction, which were foreclosures. We were making a lot of money with that. And I was working out in the field, like after they would go in and refurbish it, I would go in and clean the places and make them sparkle. And a lot of people leave foreclosed homes in shambles. Like they take appliances, they
Yes.
take light fixtures because they're angry, and they tear the place up a bit. And I would go into places and work from 6 a.m. till 12 midnight. Like I worked harder than him. Half the time I didn't know where he was. I would presume he was at another job site, but I didn't know because I was so engaged. And we had like Home Depot accounts where we go get products and bring it. I was on the go. I wouldn't get home till midnight.
You
Sometimes
were
he would call me
working.
and say,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, hard.
You were
And it was like,
working.
sometimes he
You
would
were
call me.
building. Yeah.
Yes. I was help building behind him. And it's like anything, I would get behind anything that would pay my bills. I didn't really care about the excess. I just cared about the immediate bills. As long as everything was
Yes.
cool at home, I would give my all. So I was engaged. And so when he decided to leave me and go to this home and abandon the business, even, he abandoned the business. He just let the business go because he started to do work but wasn't overseeing it. And clients started complaining because I was getting the emails, I was getting the calls at home, and I would say to them, you
Hmm.
know, they're saying this is not right, and you know, you need to go by there and do a walkthrough because they're not going to give you a check till they tighten that up. And he wouldn't have the same attitude. Like he just didn't have the same attitude. He didn't seem to care. And he was staying a lot of nights away from my home. And he would say he was staying at the rehab because he had to keep an eye on the men, right?
Mhm.
which sounded good. And
Okay.
and so one day I was at home and I was actually I was cleaning my house. I think it was a Saturday. It was early in the morning. I was cleaning my house and I got a call. Actually, let me back that up. That morning, it was like I got up early. It was like 4 a.m. It was still dark and he wasn't home. And something just got in my spirit like, go get in the car and go by his house, see what's going on. So I drove over there and it's a gravel driveway because it's off the beaten track. It's like on a easement. It's not on
Okay.
the frontage road. It's kind of odd. It's old. It's old. It was built a long time ago. And so
Okay.
I went down. You got to drive really slow because it's on gravel. You make a lot of noise. And I didn't see his other car there. So I just like turned around and started to go home. Well, I came home. I was cleaning my house and I got a phone call from that very white guy that Natalie had hooked up with the rehab from Michigan, who had his veneers knocked out by one of the housemates that was in the rehab. And he called me and and not only that, they broke a lamp over his head. So they had beat him up pretty bad and he had had enough.
Okay.
And he called me that morning. He had never called me or told me nothing. But he called me that morning. He goes, I really need to speak with you. He goes, I have to share something with you. Your husband is having an affair with one of the girls in the female rehab. And, I was shocked, but I was silent. And it dawned on me because I used to teach her Bible study. And while she was in attendance of my Bible study, she would roll her eyes when I was sharing the word, right? And I would just think to myself, like, that's an odd response to God's word. But and then
Yeah.
so when I finished up my study, I went up to her and I noticed her hair was different, and I thought it was a weave because this is back in 2011. People weren't wearing wigs like they are today. It was only like women of the night would wear wigs. It wasn't like it is today, right? It wasn't as popular. And so I asked her, "Is that a weave?" And she goes, "No, this is a wig." And I thought that was odd. And but I still didn't connect the dots, like, wig, she's a hooker, right? I didn't even think she was a hooker because she was very plain. She was very plain. I never saw her dressed up. And he even hosted a birthday party for me at that rehab with all his rehab people and Karen, Natalie's mother, and some of
Okay.
my friends. And they put on a barbecue and had me blowing out candles and opening presents in the present of the bride he was having an affair with. And everybody knew but me, and nobody would tell me. Like, not even
So
Karen came to me and told me.
so he
And
had his
so
little
they
thing.
all
He had his little side piece around.
right. And
Wow.
even I remember they were cleaning up after the party, and I was tired because it was, it was a long. It started in the afternoon, it went into the evening. I said, okay, I'm gonna go home, Earl. I'll see you there. He goes, all right, we're just gonna clean up. It was her and him in the kitchen, but I still didn't think anything because Earl had always been loyal to me, and Earl chased me so hard to get me initially when he initially met me. I really thought I had the corner market on his heart. I never ever dreamed he would do that to me. And he
Yeah.
did so much for me. Like, he would just, giving me a Christian bookstore. Like, he would just do such special things. Like, he would go out and buy me a whole church outfit, from like outfit to nylons to shoes and matching purse. He would just lay it out, be my perfect size. And you're going to wear this Sunday. He always just made it special. Like, I don't care what it was. And so I never connected it while it was happening. So this boy calls me and tells me he's having an affair with that girl, and they're at a hotel right now. I saw you driving the driveway this morning, and I tried to run out of the house to grab you, but you had already turned around and was exiting. I couldn't catch up with your car. So I
Okay.
said, okay. So he gives me this news. He says they're at a hotel right now in the area, but I don't know which one. I said, okay, all right. And I thanked him. I got off the phone. I finished. I was washing my floor that day, and I washed my floor on my hands and because it's tile. I like to get in the grooves. And I remember I finished washing my floor, and then I went into our closet, a little side closet, because we had this little mini, like a home toolbox, just little fixtures if you have something in your house you want to tend to. And I grabbed
Right.
like a cardboard cut, and I just put it in my pant, and I got in his car because I mean, there was a lot of car, but this was his car, the one he went to the car lot and paid cash for, which he would never have conversations with me about that. He just felt entitled, because he was rolling in all this money. He just came with the car, see what I got, right? I mean,
Right.
how my wife would discuss that thing, right?
Uh-oh.
So anyway, I
Uh-oh.
got in
You
his
messing up.
car because that was the one that was home. Am I messing up? And so
No, you're good.
And
You're good
so
now.
I
You're good.
went about going. I went about going to every hotel, motel in the area. I started in my town, Brentwood. Then I went next door to the next door town. Then went into Antioch, and I found them at the Red Roof Inn. And I found him. He had one of those kit trucks, so it was really heavy lifted, kind of like how a white boy would have, with all the bells and whistles, right?
Okay.
And then there was this other car that was in the driveway next to his, and I pulled up behind it so it couldn't move. And what was ironic with that car is that I recall the job in which he acquired the car. It was a car. It was a job that was paid by half cash, half car. They give him a car as well, right? And he brought the car home and initially asked me if I wanted that car. And I said, no, I don't really want that car. He goes, well, okay, then I'm going to
Hmm.
sell it then. I said, okay, cool. Well, the car was there at this motel or this hotel. And I pull up and I pull right behind the car so it can't move. And I get out and I'm just kind of looking around because I don't know what room they're in.
Right.
And all of a sudden the girl comes down the stairs, and she's a big girl, like, German shape, like, she's almost 6 foot, like
Oh,
a halfback. I mean, really overweight.
oh
She's about
shit.
20. Yeah, she wasn't attractive. She was, I mean, if she put like tons of makeup on her wig, she would look like something, but she was a
So was
really big
she?
girl. And
So what? So is he a chubby chaser? Was he a chubby chaser? Maybe.
no, I didn't know. I mean, I think he just liked the fastness of her because, she would dress up in costumes and things. Because we start digging, we start finding stuff, because when it initially came out, he was still at the house a little bit. So I would go through his phone when he wasn't sleeping, and I would see the photos she was sending him. And it's, I saw pictures of her when she was in her, her work attire, right? Her escort attire or whatever. And
Gotcha.
anyway, so she comes out of the room, comes down the stairs, and she sees me because I'm looking all in her car, and I'm just looking around to see where they're at. And she starts screaming for Earl at the top of her voice. And I never in my life heard another woman scream for my husband except for me, right? And it was
Right.
it was eerie, like who in the world? It's like it seemed so out of place, right? And so pretty soon he comes out of the room, and he goes directly to his truck. Like, he doesn't even talk to me. So I run up to the truck. I said, where are you going? He said, I'm going home. And he just gets in the car and leaves me with her. And so she's trying to get in the car, and I'm like diving into the driver's seat trying to snatch the keys from her. I'm like, this is my car. You're not taking this car. And so somehow she got the keys away, and because we were tussling, and the manager of the hotel came out and said, the police are on their way. And at that, I didn't really want like a case or any trouble.
Right.
I really wanted to deal with him. I just really wanted the car because I didn't think she deserved it. And so I left the hotel and I proceeded to go to rehab to try to find him. And he wasn't there. So then I came home, and I came in my front door, and he was curled up on my couch in a fetal position with a blanket over him. And so I went up to him and I knelt down beside him. I said, what the hell are you doing? And he said, instead of giving me an apology or a reason, he proceeded to tell me because she had a baby from some other guy that we don't know. And it wasn't his, but it was some baby. And so it was
Okay.
her and the baby. He goes, they're going to be on the street. They're going to be on the street. And I got to help them. And I said, I don't give a damn they're going to be on the street. I said, I don't give a damn about nothing about her, and you're not going to do nothing for her. And he got up, and I snatched his keys, and he was trying to fight me for them. And I was trying to hide them and stuff. But anyway, he prevailed. He got the keys, and he went out the door, and he went to her.
So
And
that was
so that was
that.
shocking. Like, I didn't,
Yeah.
yeah, that was that. And so, but he kept coming home. He kept coming here. And he
So what
stopped
was what
working.
was the what was the but what was the final straw? Like what was the
Well, wait a
yeah.
minute, wait a minute. I'll get to it because it's kind of layered. He would come here, and he wasn't bringing in no money no more. So that meant nothing was getting paid here, nothing. And we acquired this home with contractor money. It had a hefty mortgage, and me, because I rallied behind my husband all my life, and propelled him and got behind his business. I never pursued my own. I mean, I worked at American Airlines, but that wasn't going to pay for this house. And he took that away, like he quit working. And he would come to my
Right.
house and like harass me. And he would come here because he was staying at the house, but he'd still come here. And he would come in, and I would try to just be in my room and sleep, because I really fell into a really deep depression from it, because it was too much. It wasn't just losing the guy. I lost
It was
my
a
income.
lot. Right. It was a lot. It was a
I
lot
thought I
more.
was getting ready to lose everything. And it's like, you're
Right.
talking, I was almost 50, because I'm 57 today. I was almost 50. So it's like, if I would have preferred you done this to me when I was 20, I could have recovered. But
Right.
this is my life's work, because we owned a home prior to this home. So a lot of blood, sweat, equity went into that. Now we sold that, put it into this. And now I'm getting ready to lose everything, but you got a house that's protected and trust. And I have nowhere to go, because, I'm first generation American. My father's, a Polish Jew from Poland. My mother's French Canadian,
Okay.
and they were all deceased. And so it's just me on this land. I have nobody. Earl was my life. I lived with Earl longer than I lived with my own mother. So it's like, that was my family. And so he was taking it all from me. Okay. I didn't care about him, but he was taking the income. And I didn't want to lose everything I worked for. And I definitely didn't want to go live in an apartment, or be a roommate somewhere. I didn't want to go backwards. So I just fell into this depression, because I would think myself all night, how can I turn this around? And I couldn't. And it just made me more sad, and have more anxiety, what have you. But anyway, he would keep coming to my home, and he would come here, let's say at midnight, and turn every light on in the house. I'm talking the driveway light, every single light, all the hallway light, every single light in every room. And he just started going through stuff. And I talked to like this lady friend of mine who had a son on crank. I said, what is that he's doing? He just looking like he's looking for somebody. He never finds it. And he has to go to work at 4 something in the morning, because he started working for a contractor, back working for somebody else. Here's this big contractor who's now working for somebody else. Like, how are you going to do that? Right. But that's what he started to do.
Was he high? But wait, was he high?
Yeah, he was
then
high. He was high.
Okay.
But the lady told me it's called rifting. That's called rifting, what he's doing. And so I didn't never know the term. But they're looking for anything, for money, for dope. And he did it he would do it for like 5 hours, and he had to be to work. He would do it till like 3:30 in the morning, and then go crash in the guest room, and then get up at 4:45, and then come in and scream at me, telling me to make a sandwich or something, which I didn't want to do. I didn't do. I was just like, I stopped doing everything for him when I discovered what he was doing. Like, I didn't wash his clothes. I didn't cook his meals. I didn't nothing. I mean, he would come.
So who filed?
He had bids.
So who filed? Who filed for divorce?
He filed, but he filed. But let me tell you why he filed. I was so depressed. I stayed in this house 3 years from 2011 to 2014. 3 years with no income. And I was really thinking the sheriff was going to come and knock on the door and say, you got to go, right? Because I was getting, I got the default notices. Then I started getting the foreclosure notices and, quadrupla, right? Because they really want to break your spirit when they mail them to you. And then I started getting the auction sale, which was close. But let me back it up. During those 3 years, my neighbor across the street was very concerned with me, because he was taking stuff. He would come here and take furnishings that we had acquired together throughout our marriage to take down to his home he owned exclusively. And I was like, buy your own stuff. You live in a paid for home. Don't take what I picked out to go adorn a house you're abiding with a hooker. That's my taste. Don't take it, right? And so I would fight him as he tried to go out the door. And I had sunk. I got down to a side. I was skin and bone. I stayed in the bed all day. I stayed in my bed for 3 years. I stayed in my pajamas. I didn't want to face the world. I reached out to everybody I knew, all my prayer warriors, and they would say, I don't know, Mary, I don't know anybody ever been through this, but we'll pray for you. That's all anybody ever said. I'll pray for you. Nobody would. I was isolated here. Nobody came. I absolutely isolated here. And so he would come here and steal things, and I would try to fight him for him. And but I couldn't, because I was size 0, and he would end up prevailing and taking oil paintings or whatever, or wait till I. One time I went to a funeral at my church. I made a mistake of mentioning to him that one of our members at our church had passed away. And I wanted to go to the funeral, and he said, hoping he'd give me a ride, because he had came in the night and stole all of our vehicles with his hooker as I slept. And I was too small to do anything about it. My spirit was too broke. I couldn't go down and take him. I didn't have another key, even took all the keys. And I was too weak to go down to his other house in the next town over. So I was just carless for 3 years. But he would take things. And on one occasion, when I was fighting him, we were in the kitchen, and a phone call came through, and on the screensaver was the hooker. Her face was a screensaver page. This is how much he put her on a pedestal over me, the loyal good wife, right? Who wouldn't even spend his money. I didn't even spend his money. Like, I only paid bills, and that's it. I had a pacifier in my mouth. Like, if I even went shopping, I just went to Ross, and I would go to the sales aisle and buy like a $10 item. I wouldn't even I never spent his money because I just valued everything too much.
But he obviously he loved the hooker though.
I was selfless. I was just selfless. Yeah. And I kept his house immaculate. I folded his clothes like they were on a Nordstrom's rack. I had his food on the table every night at 6 p.m. home cooked. I worked in his business. I mean, I was a good wife. And it's like, and so he was in my kitchen fussing with me because he's trying to take things. And the phone call comes through, and I see the girl's face. I said, "That's her." And with that, he just snapped. And I was standing by the sink of my home, and he picked me up by my neck and carried me off my feet on the other side of the kitchen and held me up against the microwave and the stove.
Wow.
And then he held me there and let me go. And so he ran out of the house, and I ran out too. And my neighbor was out watering across the street, and he screeched off, and I told her what happened. She goes, "Mary, he could have killed you." She said, "That's enough, Mary. That's enough. And you need to call the police. You need to make a report, whatever." But I didn't. And it was coming up. I did. Actually, I did, but it took me 2 days. I went down to the police department. I had them take pictures of it because the marks were still there. I told them where he lived, and they actually went that night and arrested him. They arrested him, and I think he got bailed out, whatever. But they arrested him that night, took him to jail, and from there, my neighbor across the street, her husband's an engineer, and they have property like in Ohio, and they were going down to Texas to find property because they were going to move because they were transferring him to Texas. And so she was like, "I have relatives in New Orleans, and why don't you get away because you're really depressed? I think you need to change the scenery. I'll book you a ticket, and you can come stay with my relative in Lake Charles and just spend a week and get away and break up, the atmosphere. Like, this is too much. You're just laying in bed. You need a change of atmosphere." So I agreed. And so I went for a week to Lake Charles, Louisiana. And while I was gone, I got a text from my neighbor, cat corner across from me, asking me, "Mary, what's happening at your house?" And I said, "I don't know what's happening at my house because I'm not there. You tell me." And so she said, "Well, there's some girls scantily dressed outside, and there's signs all over the neighborhood talking about estate sale, and they're selling your goods." I said, "What?" And I have to tell you something I left out prior to that, because he had kept taking things from me, and I felt like he was going to strip me dry, like leave me with absolutely nothing, just sitting on the floor with nothing in his house. I kept crying to my girlfriend. I just was crying to my girlfriend for months, like, "You got to help. I got to get some help because he's going to take everything, and I don't have any money. I don't have a car. I don't have a job. I can't just let him take everything." And so one day she just came here, like out of the blue, and she goes, "I got 5 guys outside. I got like a U-Haul sized truck, and they're willing to donate their time. The girl down the street from my house is going to let you store it in her garage, or don't even know her, and we're going to protect your things." And I said, "Okay, cool, let's go for it." I couldn't even believe it was happening, right? Because I had no money. I was a size 0 and no car, no vehicle. So they did.
And was this the last straw? Was this when you left?
Yeah, it was getting ready to be. So I put everything in the storage. And I went on this holiday in Louisiana. And like I told you, he would come here periodically, right? Mm-hmm. He would come here periodically and harass me. And so when I was in Louisiana, he happened to come by, and he saw the house was empty. He probably couldn't figure it out because it didn't add up because I'm size 0, no money. And he moved 2 additional hookers into my home. He had one hooker living down at his house who was turning tricks out of his house with an ad I saw on Backpage.com because it advertised the Oakley address. And there was pictures of her. She had a pool in his guest room, and she actually turned tricks in his house, right? And then he decided to bring 2 more and take over this house while I was gone. And they even changed all my facilities, all my faculties in the house in their name, my water, my garbage, my PG&E. I mean, they changed the locks, everything. So I'm in Louisiana, and I'm like, oh no. Something just rose up in my spirit. Even though I was still size 0, I called my girlfriend. I said, I'm just ready to take back everything the devil stole. I'm just tired. I had it. Because I heard they were selling my Christian bookstore stuff. And it's like, they're not equipped to handle that stuff. That stuff is sacred. They don't even know what they're putting their hands upon. I was incensed by it. And I said, I'm coming home. And my girlfriend said, I'll go with you. I'll go with you for support. So
what happened when she got home?
So we arrived back. I arrived back in California from Louisiana. I went to first stop was police department. I enacted restraining order based on those pictures I just, the domestic violence I had just done. I got the police report. I went down to the courts. I got an instantaneous restraining order. I actually got a restraining order for 5 years, not
Okay.
1, 5 years. And so I came home equipped with that restraining order, and I went to my front door. There were no cars in the parking lot, in the driveway, and my key didn't work. So I went around back, and there was this little baby pit bull that I never know. And then I went around, and my sliding glass door was closed but not locked. That's God, right? So I opened it up. I proceeded in with my girlfriend, and everything was different. I went up in my master bedroom because I had emptied it out. I took all my furnishings, and my closet was all laced with female clothes. And then I went around all of the bedrooms, and another bedroom was being utilized, and another bedroom was being utilized. And I started going through the pockets of the clothing, and I found the ID, and I saw it was the initial hooker that, actually dissolved our marriage. So it was her living there. But I guess
so it was a whole house. So it was a whole house,
basically. And so anyway, they were gone. They had went to LA that weekend, but were coming home. So we were there about 3 days, and my girlfriend's swimming in our pool, but I'm not swimming because I'm on like war mode, like I'm looking, I'm watching, I'm expecting anything at any time, because I knew he had moved these brides in here, and I didn't have any money, but I had the good sense to go to the back door that proceeds out to the garage, and take that lock off of that door and put it onto the front door. And now I have the key to the house because that's the original, right? But they don't know that I did that because they didn't know, because I put the other one back on that. So they didn't know what I did. All they know is when they inevitably came, the key didn't work. So we're there. She's swimming in the backyard. Earl comes in, I guess, after work because he was in painter whites. And I guess he tried to get in the front door. It didn't work. So he went around to the back. And I saw him at the corner of the yard because I was out the sliding back door talking to my girlfriend. She's just swimming with her son. And I see Earl at the corner of the yard. And if he had ran, he could have beat us, but he didn't. And I told my girlfriend, come on. And so she runs in the house. And just as she got to the door, I was able to lock the door behind us. And he picked up this big rock. He said, I'll break this window. I said, I have a restraining order. And he goes, I haven't seen it. And so he proceeds, he's gonna break the window. And then he goes back around to the front and starts kicking in the door with his work boot, right? But he can't kick it in. And so my girlfriend's falling out. My girlfriend's panicking. I said, just call the police. Because I didn't even have a cell phone. So she calls the police. They finally come, and they took forever. And when they came, they said, we're sorry, Mrs. Nunn, that we took so long, but we were detained down the street because we apprehended your husband, and we got some, good and bad news. He's down there with my partner. I said, okay. He goes, because I started talking about the hookers and whatever. And then I had a restrainer. He goes, okay, give me that. I'll serve him. And he goes, okay. But I also had some bad news. He goes, he says he has a rental agreement with these girls and that it's all on the level. I said, well, I'm on the mortgage and I didn't condone that. He goes, well, this is now a civil matter because we don't know, if it's, some family. We can't get involved in this. So you're going to have to go to court and work that out. But we can't remove them, and we can't remove you either because it's your house. But we advise you don't fight. They said we advise you don't fight with them or start this stuff, or you'll be going away in handcuffs, right? So,
how did this end? How did this end? How did you resolve this?
Okay, so how to resolve this is I never, because I gave him the 5-year restraining order, and then I went and got civil harassed. I was forced to live with these hookers over the weekend in my home, which was horrible. And I couldn't act up because I wasn't going to be pulled out of my house in handcuffs, and then they get a restraining order from me and then ban me from my own home. I wasn't giving up no more ground.
Right.
I ended up getting civil harassment orders off them girls. I couldn't do domestic violence because, you know, we weren't related. And I had them removed, extracted that Monday morning because it was a weekend. And I got rid of them. And then from there, he filed divorce because I had a 5-year restraining order on him. He couldn't come here anymore. He couldn't harass me no more. He was banned for 5 years. That's what made him file for divorce. And what's ironic, there was a little window where we tried to reconcile, and we were together, like I would say for like a couple weeks. I mean, I had him back in church. I drove him to LA to rescue his BMW that one of the hookers had stole and took it down there. I got it back out of the repo for him, and we drove back together. And I was even going to take him to Israel with me because I was planning an Israel trip. I went and renewed his passport at the post office with them. We were gonna try to put it back together, right? And he was willing. I mean, we were going out to dinner. I got pictures of that. I mean, he went to a Mother's Day brunch with me at the I think it was Easter. It was an Easter it was, at some Easter brunch, champagne brunch. And then we went, we went to a few places like a Benihana's and things like this. And we were dating. He was like actually fooling around on his hooker with his wife. I mean, because one time I went to go meet him at his house and she was out in the street. We almost went to blows. We almost went to blows because she said, "You don't belong down here." You know what I mean? You belong up on that hill. And I said,
ultimately, it didn't work.
That's what did it. That's what did it. Yeah. When I got that restraining order, he figured he couldn't come back no more. And let me just take her to divorce. That way, I guess he could still see me because he fought me for 6 vicious years. He fought me for 6 vicious years. He wouldn't settle on the divorce. He kept bringing up petty stuff like he wanted some clothes or something, but he took everything he had. He was trying to keep us in the course. I never went back.
Yeah.
And so
he was trying to stay in your good graces. And stay in your space. Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, that was the final blow. That's what brought on the divorce.
So you guys divorced, but you guys are from San Francisco or the Bay Area? I'm
from Richmond.
Richmond.
I was born and raised in Richmond. I went to Richmond High. That's where I grew up. That's where I was reared. He's from San Mateo, which is a white community, which is where Natalie's from. It's all white. I mean, when I met Earl, I thought Earl was a nerd, a complete nerd. He talked like a white boy. His name was Earl. I was telling my girlfriends about him. I said, his name is Earl. She goes, and they would laugh and say, his name is Earl. Does he make you want to Earl? And it's like, he was like nothing I ever knew before, like, and the only reason why I gave him my number is because I had an apartment in San Francisco for a year, and my rent was high. I was paying, this is like back in the early 90s, and it was like my rent was $1,000, and I had to park on the street and move my car like every hour because it costed more to park in my building. And I didn't want to spring for that. So only reason why I gave him my numbers because he said he would take me. Would I want to go to dinner sometime? I thought, I do get hungry, but I really on face surface, he wasn't appealing to me. I thought he was a nerd. His conversation was whack. He didn't attract me. Like he didn't do it for me. He called me for 3 months, and then he got so mad because I wouldn't make dates with him. So then I started making dates with him, and then wouldn't show up. And
gotcha.
Yeah, so that's how that went. So when I inevitably actually let him meet me, he never left. Mm-hmm. Like, because it was almost like, men, when they chase something, you make it hard, you make it a challenge.
And they want it. Yeah, and they get it. They want it, and they keep it.
And so anyway, that's what happened. But he never left. And then from there,
right.
Yeah.
But what I was confused about is if you guys are so San Mateo, is that outside of LA or outside of San Francisco?
No, okay. It's on the peninsula. It's It's next. Okay, let me give you a demographic. Okay, is South San Francisco where the airport's located? Okay, then you have, if you go up a little bit further, there's Millbrae, then there's Burlingame, then there's San Mateo, then there's Redwood City. Then you get into the ritzy areas like Atherton,
Okay.
you know, that sort of thing. And then there's Foster City, and Natalie lived in San Mateo and Foster City because
So
her
why does she call herself the? So why does she say she's the queen of L.A.? Why does she say she run L.A.? Like, why does she
because
say?
she went to she went to USC for college, and so
Okay.
when she went to USC, she started meeting some people like the kid from Moesha, Marcus Polk, she Megan Good. She started hanging out with these people because a lot of them they hang out with the USC crowd because that's a ritzy crowd. A lot of the rich and famous and movie stars send their kids there. As you remember all that debacle where they were like fraudulently getting in college saying they had athletic attributes, but the parents were really paying for it, right? That's a
Oh
ritzy
yeah.
school. And so now they started smoozing with these people and getting involved with them, and that's where she got kind of her LA association from going to school there. And she had an apartment at school. She didn't live on campus. Both my
Okay.
kids had apartments, so they never had a rough life. They always had, like, I'm a
Money.
daughter of a housing project, so it's like I couldn't really relate to her. Ever since she was 6, she was pompous and spoiled. I mean, it's
But
just
how?
like,
But how was she in high school? Was she like the nerd? Was she the mean girl? Like, what was she like in high school?
um, well, first of all, the high schools were all white, so it was different. I mean, she didn't have to be a bad girl because these are kind of like, you know, muffies, right? I mean,
Right.
you don't have to be tough with that base. I mean, when I threw her a summer party at our home before we ever bought a home, we rented a house in San Leandro, that borderline East Oakland on Dutton Avenue, off of East 13th, and she wanted a summer party, and so all the friends that came, it must have been 20 kids, because we had this basement in this house we rented, and they were all white except for maybe 2 were Asian. I mean,
Wow.
all her friends were white growing up,
Wow.
with the
Okay.
exception of, yeah.
So
So
with
that
that
was
being said, did she ever have an issue with black girls, dark skinned black girls at any point?
okay. This is what I know. Okay. Um. All, most of my girlfriends are black because that's that's what I grew up with. So my best friend's black since my youth. Um, and on one occasion, we were at her place, and I asked her to braid Natalie's hair in box braids and put little, colorful balls in. And Natalie, appeased me and let her do it. And when she got home, she couldn't wait for her mother to take it out before she went to school with her white schoolmates because she was embarrassed of how it looked. And it's ironic because she does Journey's hair that way today, but as a child, she didn't want that. Holidays, I tend to, cook festive meals like collard greens, baked macaroni and cheese, candied yams, that type of thing. Her father makes chitlins. Um, and she would come to our
So
home,
soul food.
and
Okay,
so she would
okay.
come to our home and she would say, "Why do I got to eat this black food?" She didn't like it. So, but later in life, college age, when she come with her college friends, in college she started hanging out with more black people. She started getting black boyfriends. I mean, she had some black boyfriends in high school, prom, what have you. Um, but later in life, when she'd come home for college for summer break or holidays, and I would prepare the same meals, she would eat it. She would devour it. But as a child, she couldn't relate. She didn't like it. She didn't understand it. Um, she wanted probably more traditional food that was served in white homes. But that's what we prepared. So she had an angst with it. It made her
Okay.
uncomfortable. She didn't have black friends. Um, as a child, she had a cousin that was black, but she didn't do her very well. Um, and then she had one friend named Natasha, which was actually her mother's best friend's daughter. But she
Okay.
grew up in the same area. So it's a white area. I think Earl was like when I went to his mother's home, I think that was the only black home in the whole subdivision. I mean, there aren't.
Okay.
If you drive there, you're not gonna see very many. You're not gonna see any black people.
So
You're not gonna
she
see any
had a
black people.
she had a very white experience growing up, which I can understand.
Absolutely,
But
absolutely,
I heard an audio.
absolutely.
I found an audio on Instagram where she was saying she says stuff about dark skinned girls, but she just doesn't say that shit on TV. So I guess
I
my
don't think
question
she would
is,
say that. I don't think she would have said that to. I don't think she would have said that to me because she knew the people that were close to me. You know, I had a godson that was black that I christened in a
okay,
church. Who I took. You know, I used to always take them to Disneyland when they were children. During the period of being the girlfriend for 5 years, I mean, Karen would gave me the kids for Christmas, the whole Christmas week, and I was just the girlfriend,
gotcha.
just the girlfriend. Earl was in jail at that time for an offense he had done due to drugs. So he did like about 9 months at this place out in Santa Clara, and
Okay, and you had
the
the
mother gave
kids.
me the mother gave me
Wow.
the kids for Christmas, and I put on a big old Christmas for them, and I would take them to Disneyland, and I would take my godson as well, and we would drive, you know, and we'd stay in a very nice hotel, and you know, I paid for the whole entire thing, and the little godson would go with me, and he's from Richmond, and he was only I
Hmm.
think he was only like 5 at the time. He's a little boy, but you know, he grew up in Richmond. Richmond was kind of fast, you know, and so when we entered the park, you know, he put his hand out like this and said, "Give me some love" as he entered, right? Because he's from Richmond, and when we drove, Natalie would just fight him viciously. You know, I called shotgun. I want the front seat, and just treat him so, you know, second class. And she would just fought with him the whole time. And even on one trip with her father and I and Ronald and my godson again, because I would take him because they didn't have a lot, and I wanted to expose him to, you know, fun trips because, you know, he's been in my life since he's an infant, and
Right.
I would always take him along. And she said something smart to him on one of the rides, and I spoke up on it, and she started to cry, and her father. We're only going steady. Her father took her side, you know, and tried to like argue with me about it. And like we didn't speak for a long time after that. Like when we got back from the trip, we didn't speak all the way home. And Karen wanted, so you know, he went to Karen and was like crying, like she won't talk to me. Karen called me and like, you know, give him a chance, you know, at least entertain a conversation. And that's how bad they like wanted me in the life with them because, you know, a lot of things were happening. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have my own
And,
children, and so I
right.
really like I treated them
You
well, you know, because
you
I loved
clung
him.
to
I
them.
loved him.
Right.
No, I loved him. So I naturally love anything that came forth from him. I mean, that's true
Yeah.
love, right? I mean, that's blood of his blood, flesh of his flesh. I mean, that's children of his loin. I mean, why wouldn't I love them if I genuinely loved him? And so
Right.
me not having my own kids throughout my whole entire marriage because I'm barren, I would tell no good thing from them. You know what I mean? I mean, there was nothing I wouldn't do. And no, I wasn't rich. No, I didn't have an education, but I wouldn't withhold anything from them. Like my
Right.
flight benefits, for instance. My flight benefits. I worked for American Airlines, you know, for 15 years. I worked at the Oakland station. I worked at the San Francisco station. And all you had to do with book a flight was have my passcodes. And I gave Ronald and Natalie both my passcodes. They could fly anywhere in the world, first class, free of charge. And they did. They did. I mean, so many
Right.
times Natalie would come in to town, um, and I would see her because I worked the first class ticket counter. I was a gate. I did everything at the airport, gate agent, you name it. But I worked first class. They
Hmm.
strategically put me there because I knew how to talk to people. I tasted my words before I let them out of my mouth. I handled people carefully, you know, when a flight canceled, what have you. So anyway, as I'm standing there on the corner, at the corner station, you can see the escalator. Anybody coming off the flight and proceeding down to baggage claim. That was in Terminal 3 in San Francisco before they built the new international. And I see the back of her head going down the escalator. So I say
Oh
to my
damn.
colleague, I say to my colleague, hey, you know, cover me for a minute. I want to go see where my daughter's in town. And so I ran down the escalator. I said, oh, so you're here? And she goes, yeah, I came to see my mom and my friends. And I said, okay, well, I mean, you do a lot of that going to see them, but you know, me and your father would like to lay our eyes upon you. You think you could grace us with a visit every now and again? And she was like, yeah, you know, it's just, you know, I got my friends and stuff, and you know, It's just, I got,
Okay.
I got things to do and so whatever. But she would never come see me. You know what I mean? Like, it was like I could supply her.
Right, but she
And
didn't
then
want to
one time
come by. So,
yeah.
okay.
Like, and so
But
then one time
speaking
she
of
wanted to,
flights, but
yeah.
speaking of flights, okay, I'm glad you built up with the history with the dad, because you said he basically was a pimp. So
No, he
I have
wasn't. No.
he wasn't.
He wasn't a pimp. He was a trick, and he liked the attention of that lavish lifestyle. But them girls, they would make money so they could all get high together. They
But
wasn't
they didn't give him the
prospering.
money. Oh, okay. Okay.
I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it, because they met him in the trick capacity. He met them from
Okay.
calling their number and booking a date with them. He was initially their trick. So, and
Okay.
no, this is a nerd square from San Mateo. He found for grace and started to go back into drugs and
Right.
alcohol, but and getting thrills off hookers. But
Okay.
he was still, the base of him was a nerd. He didn't have no heart
Right.
like that. He didn't have no
But
heart
but
like that.
but if he was around hookers like that, it's now allegations out there that Natalie has taken girls from different cities, from LA, Miami, allegedly,
I've
to
heard this.
Nigeria,
I've heard this.
allegedly,
I've
to
heard this.
traffic them. So if you're
Yeah, I've heard
saying
this.
one, so what do you know about that?
I mean, I've just heard it through the grapevine. I mean, I always wondered, like, I mean, I'm a little disappointed with all the money that's come through her hands. She just renting a house. I mean, she really gonna settle just for the inherited house, which is really nothing. It's really a basic house. I mean, it's I mean, the leak roof, the roof leaked for years. I mean, it's a really old ranch style house. It's simple. It's small. It's like there's not much to it. It don't have good bones. I mean, that's really what you could settle for. Like, she never bought a home. Like, she rents a home in Sacramento in the Roseville area, and it's like, why would you throw away money on rent? I know rent's cheap up there, and people, that's where people go that can't cut it here. Because where
Right.
I live in the Bay Area, it's expensive. It's expensive. So everybody that really can't make it here, they go up there and try to make an abode because it's too pricey. So she
Okay.
rents up there because even rent is high down here. So but I had heard through the grapevine she's doing it. But I always wonder, like, how is she getting these clothes and traveling all the time? What is she actually doing? What is she
Right.
doing? And just some of her the way she dressed, or the way she, there's videos of her shaking her ass, and she's married and a mother. And it's like that. I mean, those things you put away, when you make vows with somebody, right? It's a marital bed. You don't defile it, right? It's like
Right.
I was always curious, like, how is she doing all this? Because, shows are far in between. I mean, what are you doing in the meantime to keep that rent happening? You know what I mean? And to keep up your lifestyle. So I always wonder, and I do hear this, but I have never seen it firsthand. I've never paid witness to it, nor would she allow me to.
But you've
I've
heard
heard
it at
this.
least.
Of course I've heard it. Of course I heard it.
So, because even with that, some of the allegations were she took some transgender girls over there too. And so, if you think about it, like, what are you doing in Nigeria? What are you doing in Dubai? Like, what are you there for?
Yeah, for real. Because they got all that happening there too. In every country under the sun.
Sure.
Things that go on here, they go on there. You understand? They got hookers in Nigeria, so it's like, so I don't know, but yeah, she does make a lot of trips there. They seem to love her, but like I remember she took an Atlanta trip to Atlantis. That's like an island, and she brought everybody. I was offered to go, but I didn't want to go out. I'm more of a homebody. I don't like
Mhm.
fast stuff. I really I love being at home. Like, when I get off work, I like to come home and like just start to unwind. This is my base, right?
Yeah, your homebody.
I
Yeah.
like to be home. And so it's like, so when they're gone, I wanted to stay home, take care of the dogs, keep a high eye on the home, right? And so I didn't go, but everybody went. Ronald and the mother of his baby, Natalie and some boyfriend she had then. I don't know who he was really. I mean, I know him, but I don't recall him. And they all went to Atlanta, all expense paid trip, supposedly. Well, when
Okay.
she went down there, it was like a lot of hoopla online about how she had ripped them off, and they were looking for her, and and they like they had just got out of Atlantis by the skin of their teeth because they were hunting her down because there were some unpaid bills there, right? So I'm glad I didn't go because I don't want to be caught up in that. But so I knew from that trip, she, it's just the way she handled her business. She wasn't she had no code of ethics. You know what I mean? Like she
Because
was
even
just
speaking of that, when it comes to the bishop that she flew in for her wedding, did she actually pay
my
him?
bishop, my bishop,
Your
my bishop.
bishop.
That's my bishop. I met
Did
him
she
in my
pay him?
Christian bookstore. No, she didn't pay him. She didn't pay him they could have taken up a tithe. They could have paid for his accommodations. They could have arranged for a limousine. It was Bridezilla, right? They could have did a
Right.
lot of things. He went down there in full bishop attire. That means seven robes on top of one another. I mean, he's not just a run of the mill bishop. He earned his bishophood through the Vatican. He's anointed. He's as good as T.D. Jakes. That's how tough this bishop is. Like nobody ever broke down the word to me and put it into layman's terms as he did and made it tangible for use because the word of God is active and alive. I mean, if you speak it, it'll come to pass. Just like a witch's brew, right? The Ouija board or a witch to catch a spell and that stuff work. God's word work even more so. As a matter of
Yes.
fact, it trumps that. It makes that witchcraft null and void. But people don't know that it's actually powerful, alive, and it's powerful, right? And the point is, like, she still carried herself this way, right? It's like, so she brings him down there. He's in these 7-layer robes. It's like 100 degrees. He's outside sweating. He has to get his own way there with one of a good friend of Ronald that was down there, Isaiah. He went with my bishop because he was my bishop's armor bearer. Ronald's best friend he
Okay.
went to high school with was my bishop's armor bearer, Isaiah. And I mean, that's how much I had them in that church. Okay, because that was important to me that they knew God. Because if you don't have nobody, at least you had the capacity to cry out to God. You understand me? Or if you don't have no money in
Right.
your bank, cry out to God. God will get you some money. God owns it all, right? There's nothing he can do, but he can't do nothing but fail you, right? I mean, he can do anything but fail you. But the thing is, yeah, he goes down there. He tried to do some marriage counseling with him before he married him, and I don't even think they were wanting to do that, even though you could see it was all busted prior to the marriage. I mean, Jacob's going down the street in tears, right? And on the show, and so he didn't get to do that, and he ended up taking a cab there, and being disgusted, and got out of there before they started getting drunk and acting up, and took a cab back. But they didn't honor him in any way.
They
You know what I
didn't
mean? And
pay
he flew
him,
all the
no
way down there.
reimbursement, nothing.
No, just
Wow.
used him.
Wow.
Just
Wow.
used him.
Wow.
And it's like that made me feel a certain way. And then I didn't go to the wedding because, just a month prior, Jacob, Natalie, and my husband flew to New York and went on the Bill Cunningham show. And Natalie, because she always likes attention, she says, any attention is attention. As long as your name's relative and it's in the media, you're famous. Doesn't mean bad or good. So anything. So she took her father to the Bill Cunningham show, and the topic was me. And it's like, I didn't sign up for that. And she presented to him, the reason why my stepmother didn't come to my wedding is because of you. And they made light of it and joke, and he laughed it off. But the whole show was about me, which I didn't authorize, which I didn't
Right.
really want everybody knowing my business like that, the world. And it's like, because I was really private. Like I fell in a bed of depression and stayed in my house and went down to
Yeah.
a size 0. I never left my house. I would go out at 3 a.m. and go get the mail or take the garbage to the curb. All my husband would pay was the PG&E and the water because my husband, on one of the times when I ran away from my house 6 times because it was so chaotic here. I would run to and fro trying to find refuge because my husband made hell for me here. And but I would keep coming home because I was leaving my German shepherds and I felt so bad. And so I kept coming home. And one time when I came home, this is before I kicked the girls out in the final decree, right? Before the divorce.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed my back garage door locks were changed. And he had erected a grow room with like 75 plants, and it was illegal because they didn't have no medical warranted card. And this is way before they made weed legal and all this.
Legal,
And I mean,
yeah.
and they had like timer lights. They had sprinklers coming from the ceiling. It was like 75 plants growing, and they were tall. You could smell it from the street. They had like this big vacuum that went out the back door. They cut a hole. They had rewired my whole garage. Tapped into the PG.
So they had a whole
wiring.
setup. They had a whole setup.
Yeah, and so
they had a whole setup.
And so then he told me if I said anything, he would kill me. And nobody would take me away from here. I would beg my children with tears in my eyes. You know I don't like this. You know I don't agree with this. This isn't me. And I don't want the feds to kick in the door and take me to prison for something I did co-sign. And if you're going to do this, at least let me go stay at your home. But don't leave me here in peril. And they would say, well, we could have that conversation sometime. But leave me here. And then my anxiety would go up because I'm already depressed. I'm already nervous about my future. And now I'm worried about the feds kicking in my door. And it's like the only thing that ended that is Earl came here and ended up ripping off half of the plant crop and taking it away in broad daylight with a no tint window SUV with all the neighbors out front because it was Memorial Day. And that's what ended the production because the person that was in bed with him with that, the other family member, which I'm not going to mention because, you know, we're only concentrating on Natalie tonight, is that they figured, let me pull this away because I can't be here because he's going to just take everything I try to do. So
so
that's what ended it. So all the equipment went away, right? And I was relieved. And when I did finally get my life back together and establish myself back in my home, which was a miracle.
Right.
Because, you know, I didn't pay mortgage for 3 years, right? And I was a week away from my auction sale, but Earl kept pressuring me when I was depressed in bed. You're not going to let, even though he was living with hookers, he would come back here and try to dictate to me what to do because I was size 0 and depressed. And I was a shell of myself. And I knew it. I knew I wasn't myself. I knew I was my former self. I was embarrassed. I knew this wasn't me, but I didn't know how to turn it around because it just got so dark. And so he would come here and try to pull me out of bed by my hair. Well, he would pull me out of bed by my hair to get me out of bed. And they would strip my bed so I couldn't get back into it. Then he would chase me. And as I ran down the stairs, he threw a can at the back of my head and cut my head open. And then he kept demanding, you're not going to lay in this bed. You're going to either work or get a job, but you're not going to lay in this bed all day. And so out of pressure, immense pressure, I took this little senior care job in Antioch for 3 months for this man who had 4-stage cancer. And I would force myself to go there because I was so depressed. I had that anxiety. I was so nervous to leave the house because I just didn't like how I looked. I was just so broken and depressed in spirit. And it was awful. And I would be so nervous. I'd have to pep myself to go. And then when I get there, I would just try to go through the motions and just watch the clock when I could leave. And I finally went to him after 3 months and I said, I can't do this no more. Because I'm broken. I can't give you what you need. You know, I really respect you and honor you, but I have to pull away because I forced myself to come and it caused me a lot of anxiety. And he goes, well, why don't you come here and live? Because he knew what was going on at home. And I said, no, because you got a Chihuahua, I got a German Shepherd, and she'll eat that dog. And so I went home and I never saw him again.
So once
I stayed in my house for 3 years, never paying a mortgage payment. Only the PG and the water was kept on, sustained by Earl because of the plants. Not for me, because of the plants. And
but you got away from that. But you got away from that.
No, wait a minute. But I was a week away from my auction sale. But I never stopped talking to God. Even though I felt God couldn't hear me. I felt God couldn't hear me because I was so depressed. Because, you know, it says in the Bible, there's only one way to please God, and that's through faith. And I felt my faith was so shallow because I didn't feel he could help me no more. Because I was running through all the ways out of this. In my mind, I'd come up with nothing. And I kept saying to God every day, if you don't do it, Lord, it won't be done. If you look at me, Lord, I'm size 0. I don't even have no energy. The bed took my energy. I can't even walk down the street. And Earl would tell me during the times to get a job, go get a job. I said, I don't even have a car. You took them all. You got hookers riding my cars around town. He goes, take a bus. That's what he told his wife for 28 years. I didn't have enough energy to walk to I didn't have enough energy to walk to the bus stop. That's how weak I was because I didn't have good nutrition. I wasn't eating. I was trying to kill myself. I tried to commit suicide 3 times in my house because he would come home and tell me to clean the house because I wasn't doing nothing. I just laid in the bed. I wanted to die. I would hear golfers hit one off. off the fairway and laugh because you could hear it because like an alleyway behind my house. And I would say, what could
Right.
they be happy about? And so I was so depressed. I wasn't doing nothing.
But thank God you didn't. But thank
Okay,
God
so
you
anyway,
didn't.
a week away from my auction sale, I go to the mailbox, and one letter came, and it looked different than the auction sale notices. It had a law firm address on the return label, and I opened it up, and it said they've been looking for me for 2 years because I didn't have a phone. Or they didn't even leave me with a phone. I had no phone. I had no cable for 3 years. I had no Wi-Fi. I had nothing. I was just in this
Right.
house alone and isolated, left to my own dark thoughts because I was depressed, which is a dangerous thing. And I never drank or did drugs, and we didn't own a gun, so I kept trying to research how I could kill myself, and I couldn't. I had nothing. I had no tools, so I took like a painter bag because they're really thick because he had them in the house, and I put it over my head, and I tried to strangle myself. I tried to suffocate myself, but it was so painful I couldn't go through it. But I tried so hard. I tried so hard because he would tell me when he got home from work that day, if I didn't have the house clean, he was going to kick my ass, right? Even though he lived with hookers, he was still trying to run me because I think he felt guilty that I had become so depressed that he didn't want me to end up this way. He was trying to fix me in a real narcissistic, like mean, violent way that I'd snap out of it. But
Right.
I didn't. So I was trying to kill myself before he came home from work. And I tried that 3 times.
But thank God you didn't.
Okay, but so anyway, so I look in the mail. I look in the mail. The lawyers have been looking for me for 2 years. The man died. The man leaves me equal shares in his estate. He owned 3 homes, multitude of cars, had money in the bank. He left me $170,000. I was a week away from auction sale. Do you know when I got that letter, I wasn't depressed no more?
I wouldn't have been either.
I hit the ground running. I found the best real estate lawyer, filed bankruptcy 24 hours before my auction sale. Went out and bought a hoopty because I wasn't going to buy a fancy car. I wasn't going to have a fancy car and drive by the house I used to own. I paid all the residual of the money I owed on the house from the past 2 years. I brought it current, and I filed bankruptcy for all the other debt. My husband's debt, his business debt, because he started messing up business, and everybody was suing him, and they were trying to sue me too because I was. So
let me ask you this: what do you do for a living now?
I'm a senior care provider.
Okay.
That's what I do. And I'll tell you why. But I get paid well for it. And not because I do it privately. I don't work for an agency because that takes all the money out of it. But I do it privately. I do it locally. And I'll tell you why. Because I used to commute to American Airlines, and it was 2.5 hours each way from here because of traffic. Not so much. It's not that San Francisco is 1 hour away, but in traffic, it's 2.5 hours, bumper to bumper, right? And crawling across the bridge. And it's out and it's South San Francisco. It's past San Francisco, the airport. And I did that each way. That's a 5-hour commute. And I knew I had to reinvent myself because I didn't have contractors' money, right? And what I did is there was a room we used to have downstairs that was an open air office that you could see through from the family room. And I enclosed that with a contractor. I put a door. And I made it a bedroom, additional bedroom, which made additional income for me. And I rented out all my rooms. I have 3 additional rooms, and I have my master. So I have roommates, housemates. That's what they're supposed to be called. And so housemates. So they help me, and then I work 2 and 3 jobs. I work a lot. lot.
So you do what you have to do, and
I do anything and everything. And all my bills are paid every single month. Every single month without fail.
But speaking of doing everything, let me ask you this, because, I heard that Natalie slept with the producer on Zeus Network to get that show, Baddies ATL.
Wow. That's too bad.
Daryl Farmer.
That's a shame for her husband.
Allegedly.
I mean, but that's in her because, that's a generational curse. When you can sleep on your betrothed and abandon them for dead, that's wicked on another level. And that's in them. That's a generational curse. And I'll tell you why. It's in their family line. I'll tell you why. When all those 4 boys left all their wives and took their homes, the eldest son, who I had the most respect for, was married 32 years, had 4 daughters from this woman, left her for dead, even took all the furniture, left her with absolutely nothing, bore 4 kids, lived with her until they were like 18, took his house, which is around the corner from Earl's.
Are you referring to her uncles? Wait, are you referring to her uncles?
I'm talking Natalie's uncle.
Okay.
So I'm just saying they can do that. Like it's nothing. And they'll sleep at night and not have a problem looking in the mirror. I mean, they're gonna have mass trouble trying to put one foot in heaven because they have to give an account. But all I'm saying is it's in her. That gene, that generational curse, because you got to bind that curse. You got to break that curse. You can't just go about. It ain't gonna go away on its own. It's in her. It's in her through her lineage. And so Jacob's in for hell.
Oh shit. So are there any recent incidents that you feel would that would show us Natalie's true character? Is there anything else that you want to put out there?
I got a library. I mean, where do you want to start? I mean, where do you want to start?
Who did she kick out? Who did she kick out?
Who did she kick out? Okay, for instance, here, I was getting, after my prior to my divorce, I told her I was going back and forth 6 years to the courthouse. Man, like 3 times a month for 6 years fighting this man, and he was acting arrogant as hell in there. You know what I mean? Like, just would not work with me, even though there wasn't nothing to work with. We weren't the Rockefellers. Why you got me tied up for 6 years? Just because. And so during this time, he started dating this really nice girl, who I grew to know. She was from, I won't say where she's from. People are gonna know. She's from Alabama. She's a Southern girl, Southern belle, sweet, good woman. And probably the last good woman he's gonna pull out the bucket. Okay. And so she's dating him, and she's living in his home in the next town over, which is Oakley. And she has her 16-year-old daughter there. And her 16-year-old daughter is enrolled in school. And her 16-year-old daughter went to school one day crying to one of her classmates that she had been jumped on by Earl. And her classmate was the real estate agent that sold me this house, that closed the sale on this house we bought in 2006, this brand new home in Deer Ridge. And she's the one that closed the sale, right? And so she calls me, and she texts me. She goes, "Are you still with Earl?" She didn't say, "Hey, how are you?" She said, "Are you still with Earl?" And I'm like, "That's strange. Why is that the first thing out of your mouth?" So I called her. I said, "What's up?" And she said, "Well, are you still with Earl?" I said, "No, I'm not with Earl." And she said, "Well, there was this little girl at my daughter's school, and she came to school beat up. Earl had jumped on her and her mother, and they live with Earl, and they've been in a car the last 2 nights, and they don't know nobody out here, and they wanted to know if they could reach out to you." And I said, "Wow, I really don't want to deal with Earl. He's really toxic, and I deal with him enough in court, but let me think about it, right?" So I went home, and I had one of my friends here, and I conferred with her, and I said, "What do you think? Should I let this girl reach out to me? I mean, it's kind of heavy on my heart." She goes, "Mary, go ahead. God bless you." And when she said that, I didn't think twice, because I'm always trying to be in God's favor. That's the only thing that matters to me. I'm a sweet aroma to God. I don't care about nothing else. And so I told the lady, "Let her call me. Here's my number." So she calls me right away, and I told her, "Come to my house, bring your daughter. You can come here and stay. I'll give you refuge. You don't got to pay no rent. Don't worry. I will take care of you. Okay. I'll get your daughter to school, what have you. And I'll also go with you down to Martinez. I'll help you funnel a restraining order. We'll get you some help. And I'll teach you how to fight." And so, meaning like get a car. You know what I mean? Okay. Just because she had a car, but she wanted the other car.
So you helped her out.
I helped her. Took her she stayed here she stayed here a month. Okay. And so he was trying to get her back. He was trying to get back to talking about, I'll go to rehab. I'll go to a meeting. Right. And I said, and I was in her ear, and I said, I'm going to tell you something. I said, I don't hate Earl. And I'm going to say this to you. I said, you're a good woman. I'm going to tell you something. Earl's not a bad guy if you can get him back on track, because look around you. He built all this. So Dolphin can do this. So I got 28 good years out of him. So I'm saying if you can get him back in recovery and back in church, you'll have you a good man. But you gotta do both. And that was my
but I'll tell you,
her.
I'll tell you this: if he's not ready for that, though, then what can you do?
No, I mean, that's free will at work, but that's okay.
Yeah,
That was my suggestion because
yeah.
she started meeting him at a few meetings, and she would even take my car because she didn't have a car here. I guess something was up with the car. Oh, she wanted to hide the car. Oh, that's it. She brought a car here,
Okay.
but she hid it in my garage because she didn't want to know he was here. She didn't want no drama at my house, so she used my car to go visit him because he didn't know my new car since our marriage, right? And so our divorce, right? Our separation. We weren't divorced yet. And
Right,
so
right,
she would go meet him at the meeting. And I would tell her, if you get him, it's okay if you want to re-engage or forgive him or, restore him. But, have a prerequisite. Make him do these things, like get him in rehab, get him back to the church. And then you have a good man, I'm telling you. But don't just take him back right now because,
right.
it's not going to work. And so inevitably
Okay.
she went back to him. I think she went back to Alabama, but inevitably she came back. She took her daughter back to Alabama, got her settled at her father's, and then I think maybe a few months later she came back and they tried to renew their relationship. Well, as time went on, I went to court like any other time, right? And I expected just another day, nothing was going to be settled or resolved. Right that day, Earl settled with me. He gave me my divorce. He gave me the house.
Okay.
He gave me his 401k. He gave me his pension. And I was like, wow. I was just shocked. And I said, wow. I said, thank you. I said, thank you. He goes, well, you earned it. You saved the house. You kept the house. And I said, well, thank you. Thank you. And the judge said, okay, well, we're done here.
Okay.
You guys can take the papers down and go file them. Go file them at the clerk, the final decree of the divorce and everything that was included. So we walked down together to file it at the station. It was like the only time we was ever civil in 6 years. And I was so happy and overwhelmed. I said, hey, you want to go to lunch? I'll treat you for lunch, because I was happy. I was happy. I wanted to give him a thank you lunch. And he was like, no, I got to get my dogs from the pound. And so anyway, because they ended up in the pound because they tore through some fence and killed the dogs next door. I don't know.
But that was the end of that. But that was the end of that relationship.
Yeah, that was the end of that. Right. And then after my divorce, he married that then girlfriend a week later. He married her. And they became husband and wife. And so I think maybe a year later, if that, she moves the same daughter that he had beat up before or jumped on. He brought a garage door down on her back and hurt her real bad when she was trying to run under it. He do stuff when you're fleeing from him. You know what I mean? So anyway, like I went down the stairs, it cracked me in the back of my head with a can, broke it open, right? I got a scar. Like if I do something with my hair, they get a scar on the back of my head. So anyway, he did that and she brings herself, she's married now, and her daughter and her daughter's boyfriend to the home. And the daughter's pregnant. She's 9 months. She's going to have birth. And so she delivers here in Walnut Creek, and same place Ronald's girlfriend had her baby, and she brings the baby home. The baby's 1 week old, and Earl had taken one car to work and left his truck behind. Well, his new wife had some pain issues. She needed some medication, and she sent her daughter in Earl's car because she was in too much pain to go herself, to run just to the drugstore right there down the street, like 5 minutes. And well, Earl came home before she returned and asked where the F it was his truck. And she said, well, I just let my daughter take it. She'll be right back. He goes, how you get off letting her drive my truck? And so he just went completely off on her and proceeded to grab her by her neck. He's famous for grabbing by the neck, right? And so he grabbed her by her neck, but he dislocated her neck. And she fell to the ground. It was like an immense pain. Well, the daughter and boyfriend come in, and not only that, the wife was holding the baby. She was holding the baby when he grabbed her by the neck. You hear me? And it's like
the
baby's 1 week old.
The
daughter calls the police. The daughter calls the police when she sees her mother wincing on the ground.
Right. And
the police come and they arrest Earl for domestic violence again. Now this is 3. One with me, one with her before, from the last time they jumped on him. She had him arrested then. And then here's the 3rd time. And so they arrest him right then on spot. They call the ambulance. They're taking her away. And I'm at work. And her daughter texts me and said, Mary, can you come to the house right now? There's been an emergency. And I like called. I said, what's going on? And I said, I'll be right there. I'll be there as soon as I get off work. I'm off at 6. I'll make a beeline for you. And so I get there.
Well,
and when I arrive, she's all upset because when Earl was arrested, abruptly, he left his keys and cell phone behind. Well, she's getting text from Natalie, and she's shaking. She's all nervous. Natalie's upset at me. My mother's in emergency surgery. Earl's in jail, and Natalie's really upset at me. So I just grabbed the phone, and Natalie's telling her to get out of her father's house, and her and that baby. The baby's a week old, an infant. This is her stepsister, technically. This is married people's business. They're legitimately married. I mean, this ain't her place. This is married folk business. You understand me? And so she's telling her to get out. So I just grabbed the phone and I tell Natalie, we're not going nowhere. Right. If you're that tough, come move us, but we're not going a damn place. And she got a brand new baby and she ain't hitting the streets with an infant. And you're a mother. How could you? Knowing that you reared a baby and how you coddled her and nurtured her, how are you gonna put this baby and child out in the street? And we're not going nowhere. And she's livid that I'm there. What are you doing at my father's house? I'm like, well, I'm here. I'm not going nowhere. And so I'm here as an advocate for her, and I'm gonna stay here until she feels comfortable. And
okay. But did she kick them out?
Natalie then starts calling the sisters. Oh, then she says something slick like, you're just mad because you don't have your own children. Natalie says that to me, and then I, of course, said, that's odd you say that to me because what kind of mother are you? Because you obviously corrupted your womb somehow with something, alcohol or generational curse. Because God say, when you're evil and you got a heart of stone and you're callous and calculated to do dirt and harm and travail in the earth, that he will curse you down to the 4th generation. That means your children and your children's children, 4 generations down. And God's word can't return void, right? So Natalie's been evil since womb.
Yeah.
From the whole period
I tell you what.
What?
But wait a minute.
Well, I'm just saying. I just said it's kind of funny that the child. Okay, we won't say it, right? We won't say it.
I know, but we're gonna leave it there though, because we're at an hour and a half. So I know people they gotta go. They gotta go to bed. So I want to thank.
Anyway, we didn't say the main thing though. One thing. So she called somebody and she called her sister and said that she gave somebody $10,000 to put a hit on the house, and they were coming with guns, like 20 deep, and they would go shoot the house up. And the girl was really upset. And I said, she's not going to shoot the house up because she don't have $10,000, one. And if she did, she would have put a deposit on a house and bought a house and not be a renter. And so don't even believe that because she's all hot air. And nobody came but her maid of honor from her wedding, who came only in a very passive manner and just asked if she could please get Earl's phone and keys so he could go to work the next day when Natalie bailed her from jail. So that's it. The people never left. They got a restraining order. They stayed 2 weeks. They packed their stuff slowly, and then they went to Alabama and left him. So left again.
That was that.
That's the second time.
So we gonna leave that there though, because we didn't have to. we didn't have time flew. It's a lot. It's a lot. That's okay. But I want to thank you. Yeah. I want to thank you for coming on tonight. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. But that's just like that's just 3 chapters out of a library. So I'm just saying. But you're more than welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And you enjoy your night. Okay.
You as well, sir. Thank you for your time.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care as well. Bye-bye.
All right, guys. I will see you guys. We still gonna do our show. Forget that. I will see you guys in a little bit.
It's Storm Show. Ay, it's Storm Show.